Would you rather have Travis Kelce or your current wide receiver 3 on your roster? George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, or your current wide receiver 3? Well, this is a rhetorical question because I know everyone would take that trade straight up without question. And depending on your team's current situation, it might be a no-brainer or at least a hard thought to take them instead of your wide receiver 1. So an elite tight end can be a complete game changer to your offense and to your franchise, as they can needle you forward to the top of your division, and we can see they can be the main focal point of a very good offense. But the draft boards continue not to show this, as there were 12 wide receivers taken before the first tight end came off the board and 13 before the topic of today's video. Greg Dulcich out of UCLA was taken with the 80th pick in the NFL draft in the 3rd round, but it might be exactly what Russell Wilson and the Broncos needed to take their offense over the top. And in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly why. We're going to talk about his strengths, his weaknesses, and how he's going to fit in this Broncos offense, because I think he has the most Travis Kelce-like potential out of anyone in this draft. There's obviously a lot to talk about and a lot of film to get into, so let's get into it. So Greg Dulcich has really good size for a tight end at 6'4", 245 pounds, but one of the things when we talk about tight ends is we call them a safety blanket. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, let me show you, because I think it means a few different things, and Greg Dulcich is very good at all of them. And the first thing we're going to look at is being open, finding soft spots in the zone when you're not the first read. And a play that illustrates this beautifully is UCLA versus USC. UCLA is running mesh right here. The outside receivers are running mesh, which puts a lot of pressure on the tight ends. And so this is going to be your primary read, whether it's 1-2 or 2-1. But Greg Dulcich is going to be right here. In my opinion, I'm not in the room, but he is absolutely just following the quarterback's eyes, the 3rd or 4th option in this play. And knowing how much stress this is going to put on the linebackers, watch how he just finds the soft spot in the zone. And when this right end gets home free to the quarterback, how he's able to look up and see Greg Dulcich wide open in the soft spot of the zone. And as this play continues, we see USC linebackers not even worried about Greg Dulcich as he sneakily slips by them as they're preoccupied worrying about this mesh concept. They're in a really good defense to it. The communication's great, and they lock it down. And if we look to the backfield, the right end is barreling down on the quarterback, but have no fear. He looks up, and now he finds his safety blanket, who made his way past the linebackers, found himself in the soft spot of the zone, and when there was no time left and nowhere else to look, he finds Greg Dulcich just in the middle of the field. Here we are against Oregon. Tell me Russell Wilson isn't going to be able to love this, as he can look here to Jerry Jeudy, he can look here to Tim Patrick or Cortland Sutton. As Greg Dulcich makes his way up, he gets carried by this linebacker, fights through the contact, is going to find himself open in the middle of the field to make a contested catch over the middle. This is what we mean when we talk about a safety blanket for tight end. And the second part of how we break down what we call a tight end safety blanket is when he doesn't necessarily look open, or nobody really looks open, but he has positioning, and they're going to be bigger than DBs, bigger than safeties, and they're just going to be able to box them out and make huge catches downfield. Again, against USC, converting a huge 3rd down conversion. And as the quarterback scanned the field, nobody's really going to be open on this play, but he sees Greg Dulcich just have the slight advantage against a smaller safety on this play, and he's able to rip it in there knowing he has some of the most sure hands on the field and he can take the shot. And it might not be as flashy, but what wins football games is 3rd and short, or like we have here, a 4th and short against Oregon, a conference rival. As Greg Dulcich is just going to find a spot here, he is going to be double teamed, but the quarterback can trust him to have the most sure hands in the biggest moments. And if the quarterback even has the smallest window that he feels like he can rip it in there, he can trust in his tight end to make a catch like this, see through the chaos, look the ball into his hands, and make huge conversions like this. And I know it's not all this flashy, it's just a 10-yard gain, but this is what wins and loses football games. And the third part of a tight end being a safety blanket is when you have a clear advantage or a mismatch, can we just count on you to win the rep? And right here we have Greg Dulcich, who is going to be man-to-man against this safety. This is an advantage for the tight end, but you have to convert. And like we see with George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, if they have an advantage one-on-one, the quarterback can just look to them. So let's see how this route plays out. And on the snap of the ball, he's going to attack the safety, get right on his heels, and now he can do a lot of things. As he's the safety, there's going to be no help over the top. He starts breaking down, gets right on his toes, and he can make an in-breaking route. He can break it off to a post or a corner. In this case, the quarterback just looks at him, knows he's going to be there when he makes his out-breaking route, gets the advantage, and he does not need to have that much space to make the catch. Lay a good ball on him, and then this is what we're going to be talking about in a little bit, how he makes a miss right after the catch. And if you're looking at combine numbers, don't be scared by his 4.69 40. That doesn't reflect how he plays on the field. And looking at a bunch of articles, NFL scouts, they said they all had him at a low 4.6, which puts him in the category of tight end I like to call seam ripper. And when we have a guy like Albert O lined up across from us, if we're in some sort of 12 set, this can be terrifying. So he can absolutely rip open the seams, get over the top of the defense, break open, and no, the safety or corner does not catch him on that play, but he can rip down the seams, get open, get free, make people miss. And so when you have two vertical threats in Greg Dulcich and Albert O, you cannot tell me if you have a safety blanket that can also take it over the top of the defense, Russell Wilson isn't going to have an absolute field day with this. But moving on to the last thing we're going to talk about that reminds me so much of Travis Kelce, we're going to make an NBA comparison, and that is Luka Doncic. And so what we have here pre-snap is we have a 3rd and 14. We have Greg Dulcich right here, and we have an outside leverage corner going to be man-to-man on him, and he's just going to run this drag route. And so, no, he doesn't have blistering 4.4, 4.3 speed like some of the receivers coming in this draft class, but he is absolutely fast enough that you cannot play outside leverage on the far right hash and expect him to cover him all the way across the field. But what we're going to get into is right here at the point of contact. We have a much more athletic corner guarding him, and he just makes a miss, stumbling, rumbling, bumbling down the field. Now, let me show you something that Travis Kelce does. How many times have you seen this where Travis Kelce just catches the ball, and even though people are much more athletic or a lot faster than him, he can just make these tiny micro juke moves to make people look absolutely foolish? And it reminds me so much of Luka Doncic on a basketball court, where he's not moving as fast, but the moves are so precise that he can just rumble, stumble his way to the basket. Travis Kelce has this, and we'll look at a few more examples that Greg Dulcich does as well. So now that we know what we're talking about with this film segment, let's watch this play one more time. You can't follow him all the way across the field. Makes a guy miss, stumbles, rumbles forward. And on this play against LSU, he's going to be breaking free and just makes the defensive back look foolish just with a tiny juke move, this time pretending to go inside much faster. And this is a 4'6" guy. And to be able to catch the ball, immediately make a guy. He just made this guy fall as soon as catching the seam route, which plays into the earlier part that he's a seam ripper, catches the ball, and just this little doesn't break down, doesn't respect that he could get juked out by a 6'4", 250-pound tight end. But not only looking what he's able to do for Russell Wilson as a safety blanket or a seam ripper, but after he gets the ball, he could be off to the races, making DBs look foolish down the field, picking up key extra yards, which plays into you can throw it to him earlier past the sticks, and he can go ahead and convert those long 3rd downs if you need him to. And the last part of the safety blanket we're going to look at here, UCLA, we have Greg Dulcich with his hand in the dirt lined up as tight end. We have 2, 3, if you want to call this 2, 3 linebackers in the middle of the field. What they're going to do is this guy, his job is to bump Greg Dulcich off his route and go to the flats. And now these 2 linebackers are going to be left in the middle of the field, both responsible. And as we see, Greg Dulcich is the only person that's going to be running a route over the middle of the field. Both of the guys are going to be able to try and follow him. But not only does he fight through the initial contact right here, boom, where he's going to get hit from the linebacker, but he barely loses stride, still able to find himself open and get a huge gain down the field. And we see Travis Kelce do this so much because right now, theoretically, LSU's in the perfect defense. We have a guy to bump Greg Dulcich off his route, and we have 2 covering 1. But when you have a guy like this, like Greg Dulcich, like Travis Kelce, it's just not going to matter. But quickly, one more example of winning the one-on-one reps, and this is what when I watched more UCLA games, the more I fell in love with him as he looks like a veteran NFL route runner as he's going to attack the safety who's guarding him man-on-man, but he's going to take an inside release, the safety's going to open up his hips, and then he's going to do this cheeky little 1-2, get him spun around. And I'm telling you right now, this is never going to get called. His arms are close to his body. It's going to be really hard. I doubt a ref will ever call this a push-off, but it does create some sort of separation. And as we see on this play, he's going to get the leverage, and the quarterback just puts a good ball on him. Well, what the safety actually has to do is wrap him up, tackle him to the ground so he doesn't complete this. Easy 15 yards, or in the NFL, spot foul. But the last example of being a safety blanket, can you win matchups you're supposed to? And when I watched Greg Dulcich, the answer was a resounding yes. Now, to go over some of the weaknesses, when looking at tight ends, a lot of people have Greg Dulcich as the best tight end, and I see him being the best tight end for certain schemes. I see Trey McBride out of Colorado State being the more Gronk-like guy. He's an absolute mauler, like Gronk is, like Kittle is, like Mark Andrews is, but Greg Dulcich is this pure, almost tight end. He can block a little bit, but I would really like to see if he wanted to be used more in that offense in that way, to put on a little bit more weight, but he is more of a Mike Gesicki, Travis Kelce, pure route runner, being able to create things happen, has really soft and secure hands, and his 4.69 40 doesn't represent on the field. I see him more of as a low 4.6 guy, even maybe a 4.6 flat. And this is why I think he's going to do so much for the Broncos offense, because they have such a good run game, because they have all the speedy receivers, and they have Albert O that they can line across from. So if you're the Broncos and you can come out at 12 set in a very heavy run set on a 2nd and 1, and the defense still has to be worried about 4 verts because they have that type of flexibility with the talent they have. This is going to put a lot of pressure on DBs and safeties. He's going to win his one-on-one matchups when he can, and he's going to be too big for corners where he can just outbox them out, and he's going to be too fast for certain linebackers. But I do think he showed some potential blocking, especially at the 2nd level. I think he does do a good job anchoring down on linebackers and corners and safeties if they want to do some outside zone stuffs or have him break off the 2nd level. I did see him get manhandled a couple times against defensive linemen, but everyone's a work in progress. That can be taught, and if he wants to put on some more weight, if he's able to keep his size, he already has the route running. If he can keep his speed, then I could see him adding some weight and becoming more part of the run game on the 1st level, the initial defensive line. And for all these reasons, this is why I think he has the biggest Travis Kelce-like potential. And I think with what the Broncos have with their run game, with their offensive line, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, and their wide receivers like Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, Cortland Sutton, Tim Patrick, and to pair him with Albert O, and no, I'm not going to embarrass myself trying to say his last name, but adding Greg Dulcich might be the missing piece that Russell Wilson and the Broncos needed to put them over the top. And I can't tell you how much more I came to love him the more I looked into him and the more UCLA games I watched. But that's what I think. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure to like this video if you like videos like these. Make sure to comment down below what you think about Greg Dulcich and what this Broncos offense could look like with him. And make sure to subscribe if you enjoy daily sports content. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for checking out the channel. And as always, I will see you all tomorrow. Peace!